This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 193.
Welcome to We the SEs Podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramzi Majaba.
What's up, SE Nation? Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, Ramzi Majaba, and I have my first guest ever from Brazil. So from South America, my first guest ever. And his name is Andre Peixoto. And he has an interesting story. So I have been talking to many sales engineers, SE leaders, for a while now, and I've worked with a few where there wasn't an SE team; it was just an implementation team, and now all of a sudden they are told, "Hey, now you're part of the pre-sales, or you are the pre-sales." And Andre is exactly in that position. We talked a while back, and I really wanted to get him on the podcast because, strangely enough, he's not the only one. Many people are in the same boat where whether you're an implementation SE and now you've been migrated into a sales engineering role, or whether there's an entire team that's an implementation that's been pushed into sales engineering, which I find interesting. I don't know. It's not the way I would do it. I mean, they're two totally different teams. I would build a team from scratch personally, but Andre has taken it upon himself to figure it out. Like, now I'm in pre-sales, and now I have to learn everything about pre-sales, teach all my SEs everything about pre-sales. So it's a very interesting journey that he's going through, and I wanted to bring him on to discuss it. So let's just jump in and see what Andre has to say. Good morning, Andre. I'm not going to try to say your full name because I'm going to butcher it, but maybe you could share your full name.
I'm Andre Peixoto. Yeah, Andre Peixoto is fine. My name is huge, but I go by Andre Peixoto, and that's like easier for everyone.
Peixoto is written P-E-I-X-O-T-O.
Yes, Peixoto. Yeah.
If I were to read it, I would have read it Peixoto. So I'm glad you said it before I butchered your name. So we've been talking for a long time, you and I.
Yes.
But a lot of people might not know who you are, where you're located, because you're my first, guest from that area. So can you introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do?
Sure. So I'm Andre Peixoto. I'm a Brazilian. I live in a city called Curitiba to the south of Brazil, which is also the HQ for eBanks, my current employer. I am working in the financial industry for like a little over 10 years, always on the technical side, but I have only become a sales engineer here at eBanks. Prior to that, I used to work on IT security or application support, stuff like that. And since joining eBanks in 2017, I've been working first on what we used to be the integration team, which has then converted to the sales engineering team through the course of the years and my time here.
Okay. So here's the thing that I see. You're not the only company that's done this, where you have an implementation team or integration team post-sales, and all of a sudden, now you're responsible for pre-sales. Why did the change come about, and how has it been going for you? What are the challenges you're facing?
Well, when the team started off, it came out from a necessity of having someone. I think before that, I can just give a brief at what we do at eBanks, right? Just
sure.
to maybe paint a better picture. So eBanks is a payment processing platform, a payment aggregator. So we facilitate that merchants from worldwide merchants process using local Latin American payments without necessarily needing to establish a local entity. So that's why how eBanks was born. So we are a payment platform. Having said that, the integration team started off with the necessity of having a team dedicated to teaching these merchants how to integrate with our platform, to create credentials, to do some like testing and tuning to their accounts, to allow them to process payments and troubleshoot issues, right? And that's where we started when I joined the company. We were basically like creating merchant accounts, integration keys, sending them technical documentation without too much interaction, just the strictly technical troubleshooting interaction. And we were actually under the engineering area of eBanks. We were not under the commercial area as we are today. Through the course of the years, like around 2018, half 2018, starting 2019, the demand to have a technical guy helping the sales cycle more actively became increasingly larger, because the sales cycle at eBanks became to increase as well. We were getting larger deals. We were needing more than just like an account executive to do the selling of the technical part, because they do not have the expertise, right? So with that came the necessity of having the former integration team act more on the pre-sales side, on the front line, together with the account executive, to bring like this confidence that we need to sell the platform, to understand what really the merchant would need and how we can support them, right? So that's kind of how it happened.
Okay, so generally speaking, when we talk about implementation team, in my mind, it's more of a cost center. Like, you don't bring in profit; the profit has already been brought in by the sales team. And right now, you've changed into a profit center. Has that changed any of, I guess, any of the way you do things, from being a profit cost center to a profit center?
Actually, to be fair with you, we still work on, let's say, a cost center model, because our goals are not directly tied to revenue goals yet. It's something that's being worked on, of course. I think it does make sense. But for now, we are like a supporting team for the sales team, right? So,
Okay.
so their goals, they are working on a profit center. They are tied to revenue goals. And we, while working on helping the sales cycle since the beginning, we are still working on a cost center model.
Okay, so are you covering the entire sales cycle, from when the salesperson brings in the lead, or what marketing brings in the lead? Are you part of discovery all the way to implementation? Are your team still doing that, or has the role changed?
Not on 100% of the cases,
Okay.
but on the larger enterprise accounts, yes. So when you have a more complex deal, we usually get very, very early in the sales cycle to really see if our platform has everything that the merchant needs, if we need to develop something special, if our business model can cope with their needs. However, when we talk about smaller accounts, medium businesses, they are usually using a business as usual integration, and our interaction with them will start once they start testing the platform. So it's almost like still an implementation role, right?
Okay, they haven't bought the product; they're still testing, right?
Yeah.
The stage right before buying. If the tests
Yes.
go well, okay. So for the larger businesses where your team is participating in the pre-sales cycle, the skills are very different from implementation to that pre-sales, right? What have you seen in your engineers, how they've adapted and how they've changed, or if they have adapted actually?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because you need to sugarcoat a technical guy with commercial skills, right? To be merchant facing, to establish a relationship. So I have seen that, or I have learned that not everyone is fit for that, to be honest, right? It's like soft skills, and soft skills are really hard to teach. It has a lot to do with the individual's profile. Someone who's more like outgoing, has a better communication, likes to do that, to manage relationship, would excel on a pre-sales role. But if you get like a pure technical guy, even if he's the best in his area, and you put him like on a pre-sales role, he might stutter, he might like get demotivated, he might not enjoy that. So I have different profiles in my team, and I try to juggle that as well.
I've seen very technical people lose deals because they don't have those soft skills. When they're asked a question, instead of coming up with, Chris, are you familiar with Chris White?
Yes, I know him.
He has the concept of the qualified no. Like, don't just say no, ask questions and then figure out if it's a no or a yes.
Yeah.
A lot of technical people, like purely technical people, just say no, we can't do that, and then they might try to fix it. Oh, we can do it this other way. But yeah, I've seen that quite a bit. So how are you picking who works on the bigger companies and who works on the small to medium business deals?
It's basically on seniority, right? A more senior sales engineer will usually work on the most complex deals, right? And today I don't have like anyone in my team that I would say, no, this guy is not fit for pre-sales. This guy cannot talk to merchants. He's going to be on his cave and doing implementation configurations. No. Today I have like a very blessed to have a very good team, which is very well balanced between having technical skills and knowing how to deal with a merchant relationship or a customer relationship. So my division here is like, I have a mid-market team, which is like more mid-level employees, which are focused on these small and medium businesses. And I have an enterprise cell with more senior resources, which are like more apt or more able to handle those complex deals that you need to do some outside of the box thinking. You need to have like a real dedication to those accounts. And the difference here is not only on the seniority of the sales engineer, but also his workload, because I try to balance like this guys handling enterprise deals to have like less accounts at a time, right? Because they need more dedication, they need to be proactive, etc.
And from your perspective, has the role of managing an implementation team changed when you started doing management of a sales engineering team? Like, what has it changed for you specifically?
To be fair, before we moved to a sales engineering team, I was not managing, I was an analyst. So
Okay.
when I took over the coordination, the management team, I even accelerated this change to sales engineering because I thought it was like demanding. I was a big part of this change together with the rest of the team, of course. And that's also why when I started to go after a lot of sales engineering content, I found you, I found other thought leaders on sales engineering community, which have helped me a lot on this journey.
Okay, good. But why did you want that change? Why did you say there is a need for sales engineering? Because how did you know there is a role that's called sales engineer to begin with?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because well, I knew before because just by reading, right, by consuming content from the internet. I've always took interested in this like technical sales role. Even if you don't call it a sales engineering, right? You have multiple facets of the sales engineering name. You get like a technical account manager, etc., etc. And the need came from the ecosystem inside Emacs, right? The sales guys were starting to ask us to participate on earlier on the sales cycle. And with that, I thought to myself, like, okay, so we're not only the tech guys who create accounts and test accounts. No, we are an active part and responsible for the success of the merchant on the sales cycle, right? For the success of the deal. The technical closure of the deal lays on our hands. So it's much more than just connecting the cables and integrating those guys, but it's more like taking ownership of the deal and saying, hey, I'm going to bring this to the finish line. I'm going to make this succeed, whatever it takes.
Okay. Two questions that come to mind. You mentioned a lot of sales, a lot of people in your team, you're blessed that they have the soft skills versus are they able to do the sales engineering role?
Yeah.
Where, like, generally speaking, when you're talking about hiring people for implementation, some may not. It's not really a focus. How did you find that they're all able to be sales engineers?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And that's something that shifted. I learned throughout the course of the months, the years, that teaching hard skills or teaching technical skills is so much easier than teaching soft skills.
Yep.
So my focus on interviews when I'm looking for sales engineering, it's very hard to find a complete package, right? You find a guy who's an extremely technical guy who knows everything about the APIs or the payments industry where we work, etc., etc. Plus, he has like this awesome outgoing profile. He's like organized. He has worked with projects, etc. It's like a utopia to find those, right? So I'm very much more focused on the soft skills. So when I'm doing the interviews or when I'm doing the screening for candidates, I'm always looking to find more people with those soft skills package. So I do questions and etc. and play out some scenarios to test those skills. Then on the technical, of course, I don't want someone with zero technical knowledge, but I know I can teach. If the
Yeah.
guy is very good here on soft, I can teach the tech.
Okay. Are you able to share a couple of questions that you would ask as a SE manager?
Yeah, sure, sure. I like to lay out some scenarios, right? So,
Okay.
for example, an adverse scenario. Let's say we have a merchant who wants to integrate with eBanks, but he's out of resources, right? So he's saying, I'm using provider X today, and I want to move to eBanks, but I don't have the technical resources to do a full implementation. How would you handle that, right? So there are many paths that you could go to convince a merchant that, or stuff that you can do internally that you can convince a merchant that the effort can be minimized. And I like to see how the candidate would juggle that, or how he would handle that kind of communication, right? How I would say, I have seen people say, no, I would say, I can't do that. I mean, come on, you never say you can't do something, right? So
Yeah, that's
what
the qualified no we were talking about.
exactly.
Right? Instead of coming up with a solution like, hey, we have a team that will reduce that risk for you. We can help you do it. We have professional services that you pay extra and we do it for you. Versus, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that. That's so you're basically trying to see if they think about us, they're a problem solver versus like trying to qualify something out. And there's always room for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really like to pick their brain, right? To make them think. It's not like I don't give like yes or no answers or questions, but rather lay out some scenarios that I would like to see how they handle that.
The best interviews I've had with managers are conversations where like you say this is the scenario and I come back and ask you a bunch of questions and then you provide some answers and it will be a conversation that we can build together a solution. That's my personal opinion, and I enjoyed that as someone who's trying to apply to a role. I would enjoy it more than someone asking me a question, then I'm like, I have to come up with an answer on the spot because it doesn't happen, right? When you're talking to customers, you can have a conversation versus. So yeah, okay. And any comments about that or?
Yeah, I was just commenting that it's good to know, or at least find some common ground with the merchants or the customers where you can find some trust, right? A trust relationship where you can feel comfortable to explore more on their pain and be creative on and honest on saying, hey, we do not have that today here available. We do not have this exact solution, but I can see this being built. I can see the path where we can make it happen for you. I just need to understand better what are your needs, what are your requirements, and when do you need that? What's your desired timeline? And then we can get back to the drawing board and build up a solution together. So that's my comment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. In my world, it's harder because it's hardware based and it's software on top of hardware.
Yeah.
But even if we get into that situation where it's hard, like I can't say yes, there's always the option like, hey, I can bring the product manager and we can have that discussion with them. Excuse me. So there's always room to have that conversation and not just say no. Obviously, there are certain things that I've talked to the product manager 100 times and they said, we're not going to do it. At which point I will tell the customer, sorry, we can't do it. I don't want to waste anybody's time. Yeah. But if there's room and it'll make the product better, why not? So yeah.
And that's not different from my work, honestly, because even though it's a platform, it's the same drill, right? If we have like a new solution, the merchant needs something that is unique. It's something that we don't have. We also, I mean, I suppose your roadmap is, your product roadmap is as mine, like 3/4, it's already filled, right? It's already swamped.
Yep.
And if you need to bring something new, a new requirement from the merchant, you need to go through the product team and justify. And sometimes they will say, just sorry, but this is not a deal that's worth taking something out of our roadmap to build.
Yeah.
And you can do that. It can happen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. At which point then you can say no, but at least you showed that you put in an effort to help them solve their problem, which is great. And so you mentioned that sales team was asking you to get involved earlier.
Yeah.
Now that you have an official sales engineering team or pre-sales team, how has the treatment of that pre-sales team been from the sales team? Usually we struggle a lot with the sales team, and I can't imagine a baby pre-sales team, how they would be treated.
Well, this sales team itself, I mean, we get a lot of compliments from them. At least I do, right? They really enjoy our work, our support. There are, of course, a lot of things that I like to get on this interaction that I would like to improve, and I have been working to improve, especially on like efficiently using resources and getting the sales engineer at the right time of the deal, because sometimes they are brought in too late, and I mean there was damage done already because there was lack of information or whatever. So I have been working to like build a process where there could be easier interaction between sales and sales engineering, and I've been trying to use our CRM to do that. So yeah, but tell me a little bit about your struggles as well. I'm curious to hear.
About my struggles with sales?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of different because I am my salesperson. Right. I guess my struggle is being able to do everything, but other people, like I've worked with someone at a startup who was pulled into a deal, and she was supposed to do a demo, only to find out that, oh, the salesperson has already started integration and they're doing it wrong. So like,
Oh yeah.
she's too far into the sales cycle that
Yeah.
she has to actually stop and go back and fix stuff versus push the deal forward. Have you seen something like that?
Yeah. I mean, I have. That's a very typical scenario. I mean, it happens, you know.
That's sad. That's sad. From my
Sometimes
perspective.
what I see sometimes is that um, we are a global sales engineering team, right? We have like multiple commercial units at eBanks. We have like per region, we have APAC, we have United States, we have channels, we have mid-market, we have enterprise, we have local, we have multiple sales, different sales channels with different managements, but we have only one sales engineering team, which is mine, a global. So I see that sometimes the sales executives are are a little cautious because they think, I'm only involved in the sales engineer if I think it's really necessary because they're too busy. I don't want to like take their time. But sometimes that's a mistake because they try to do things on their own because they do not want to like use us in a not efficient way. But in the end of the day, when we get involved, we know that things were said or things were promised to the merchant that are not actual feasible. So that's, you know, that puts a dent on the relationship.
That's very interesting. I've never seen a salesperson not involved in a SE team because he's worried or she's worried that the SE team is too busy. I've seen them because they're not used to it. They're lone wolves. They want to do everything themselves.
Yeah, there's that as well.
Yeah, or like they haven't learned to trust the SE team yet. And it takes, it's kind of like working with customers where you need to build relationships with customers. You need to build those relationships with the sales team. And if they trust you, they'll bring you in earlier. If they're lone wolves, that's a different story. You're going to have to figure that out. But generally speaking, that's what I've seen. But I've talked to a few of your SEs, and I don't know, from when I talk to them, they seem to show they know what they're doing. And they ask the right questions and all that. So it's interesting to think global companies or startups have the same problems, it seems, at some points.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's about the dimension of the problems, right? But the problems in its core are basically the same.
Yeah. So what are you doing to, like, how are you overcoming this problem that you have? Because although let's say they're afraid to get you involved because they're busy, because your team might be busy, but not getting you involved will cause more work down the line.
Yeah.
So how are you overcoming that?
This, like, when it happens, this kind of scenarios, we always have like let's say a root cause analysis, right? If we get like an enterprise deal, a huge merchant that we are working on, and we get to a point where we find an error or something that went wrong on a step of the sales cycle that could have been better, we're going to take a few steps back and say, hey, why this has happened and how we could have avoided that. So let's say, oh, it was a misinformation, miscommunication. The account executive sold something on the platform that's not possible to do because there was not a sales engineer on the call, and there should have been a sales engineer on the call. Okay, so let's take a few step backs and make sure that on the next deal you are bringing in a sales engineer, because you're better off having a sales engineer quiet and just listening for like 30 minutes on a pre-sales call than like try to sell the technical side on your own without confidence and end up causing damage.
So what happens to those deals that are sold incorrectly?
Well,
Like,
depends on the scenario, because there are different scenarios. There are some scenarios that when it's not like too much of a deviation, let's say, from the original product, and we can maybe do some technical adjustment or make it work in another way that it is within our capabilities, right?
Right.
If like it's something very critical, which is like something that we cannot do even remotely, then we have to go back to the merchant, talk to them and say, hey, we cannot do this way that you need. Can we try to find another way within our capabilities that would also attend your needs? And most of the time we are able to do that. We are able to salvage the damage.
Okay. But it's much harder at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you cause like the trust is like the core, like is the base of the relationship with the merchant, right?
Yeah.
Once you like shake the trust, everything gets more difficult, right? You start getting more pressure from them. You start getting like, they start escalating things if you do not answer quickly. It's like once you put a damage, once you damage the trust, your sales cycle is going to be much more difficult.
And how is the salesperson involved in that process? I'm assuming it was sold and then you went back and tried to fix it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. And most of the time, the salesperson will take the lead, right?
Okay.
Of like doing let's say asking for like a
Forgiveness.
review of, yeah, forgiveness, or yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I've worked with some that once the sale is done, they're just moved on, and they have no incentive or care to actually try to fix it because they already got their commission check, right? Which is kind of an incentive to just sell whatever. But yeah, I'm glad that they have to be responsible for their own mistakes, and now they're gonna have to fix it.
The good part here is because their commission is tied to the payment processing, right? So at least for 12 months. So they need to make sure that the account is healthy. They can't just hit and run.
Okay, so that's a good way of incentivizing people to do their job properly. Otherwise, it's just deliver some equipment and some software and just call it a day. Moved on. How is the sales engineering team incentivized at this point? You mentioned you're used more as a cost center than a profit center.
Yeah. I mean, we do only have fixed. We do not have variable yet. It's something I would like to bring to the table, and it's something that I want to discuss with our higher management at some point, because I think that's good for both the sales engineers, because it gives you more a sense of ownership, right? You want to make that happen even more when you have a financial benefit from that. And it's also good for the company. So
yeah, I've talked to other companies that don't want to give their SEs commission because they don't want them to worry about the sale, right? They want them to focus on helping the customer rather than worrying about making commission. For me, I didn't find that to be a good enough reason, because most SEs actually want to help the customer no matter what the commission, especially since it's small. But have you seen that, has it affected the behavior of your team just because they don't have commission or because it's only base?
I wouldn't say that, because there was never a commission, and this sales engineering shift, like officially we have been rebranded sales engineering team this February this year.
Okay.
It's very fresh, right? So there are a lot of things that we still need to put in place to like make a more mature sales engineering team. I wouldn't say that's like demotivational to do not have commission, because that's how everyone was hired, right? It's not like something changed along the way. Oh, you were hired to receive a 2080 salary, but now you're going to only have a fixed.
What are some of the other things you're looking to implement to make it like more sales engineering versus implementation?
Well, there are some things that I want to do. We were talking about pre-sales a lot here, right? And that's one, I would say it's one of our weak links today. And mainly because we do pre-sales, but I don't think we do as much as we should. And we do a lot of post-sales, I would say, post-launch, because here we have like let's say three main points of the sales cycle. We have the pre-sales, right? We have the post-sales, which is the implementation once the agreement is signed, and we have the post-launch, which is when the merchant has integrated and started processing payments with eBanks, right?
Yeah.
We have a certain degree of work that is tied to the post-launch, because, and I wouldn't like to have that too much, because when you have a technical guy that takes you by the hand and walks you through the integration, you're the merchant, right? You see that guy as your like point of contact for any technical issue that you have.
Yeah.
Once you launch, you still go to that guy, but you shouldn't, because that guy is the implementation. It's not operational support.
Yeah.
Right?
It sounds like customer success.
Yes.
It sounds like you have customer success. You're missing that piece, it seems, and you have the implementation team, and then no one to be the point of contact afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should phase out, right? Once the promotion is live, we should monitor like for 2-3 weeks maybe, to make sure that, okay, it's working, the platform is connected, there are no breaking issues here, and we should phase out to like an account manager, to like a technical account manager, which we have this role here, which is like the person who does the technical support post sales.
Yeah.
And move on. And I would like to just my goal is to shift this workload from this post-launch support and bring it more to the pre-sales side. Right? That's one of the things I want to do.
Yeah. So, and is the technical account manager involved in the implementation portion?
Sometimes yes, but sometimes we do not have like an assigned technical account manager yet. So let's say we have two kinds of merchants here at eBanks. We have new accounts and we have existing accounts which are expanding. So let's say one account is like working in Brazil and he wants to expand to Argentina. If it's like an enterprise account, this account probably already has a technical account manager, right? So this technical account manager will be with us during the integration cycle for Argentina. But if it's a brand new account, sometimes there is not like a technical account manager assigned yet. It will only be assigned once like it's closer to launching. So there's that.
In my mind, I'm thinking if the technical account manager is assigned as soon as the deal is signed, they're not doing the implementation, they're just managing the project. Yeah. That way you could have a direct that's the point of contact initially, and it will alleviate some of that pain. But you still want to move people from implementation to pre-sales, right?
Yes. I think not implementation. I think our work with implementation should continue, because it's like one of the most important things we do here. But the post-launch, right, the support that we are giving after the merchant is live, I want to shift that. I want to shift that time consumption to pre-sales.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The more you're out there, the more you're selling. It's not like you're not supporting the customer. It's just somebody else doing that. Somebody else's role who would be better at it than implementation. All right. Cool, man. Is there anything else that you can think of that you can share and with the people listening about your current challenges and how you're thinking of solving them?
Well, one thing that it was a big challenge for me was how fast my team grew in the last year, because last year we were like 6 or 7 and today we are 13, so it's almost doubled in size, and how I would manage all those projects at once from a manager perspective, right?
Yeah.
So my advice would be to the managers out there, to people handling teams who might be struggling with this as well, is take a step back from the operational. Try to not get your hands dirty, because sometimes you want to make that happen. You are focused on the success and you want to do things by yourself, right?
Yeah.
The key thing here is trust your sales engineers. Just give them advice and try not to do things yourself, because if you do everything, you're not doing anything right. You need to focus on managing.
Well, yeah, and they should be better at doing it than you. Right?
Yeah,
And if you're hiring people you don't trust, then maybe you shouldn't hire them. So,
exactly.
yeah, I love that point. Okay. All right, good. So it is time to move on to the not so fire round. These are the same 4 questions I ask almost every guest. I'm not sure
Okay.
if you've heard them before or not, but it's your episode 193, so I've asked them almost 190 times.
Okay.
All right. So what do you love about your current role today?
Oh, I love I combine things that I love. I've always loved working on the technical side. Since I was a young kid, I always wanted to be a technical guy. And I also love customer interaction. I love like solving problems. I love outside of the box thinking. I love like creative design of solutions. So combining those two things into one role is like a true passion for me.
Nice. Yeah, I think a lot of sales engineers find that in the end. Like a lot of sales engineers think, oh, I don't want to talk about the business side. I just want to be a technical person. But as soon as they get involved, they start enjoying it more. And the more they enjoy it, the more successful they are.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so you've done a lot of changes to your team and everything else. And you already mentioned one change where you would like to have the team work more on pre-sales than
Yeah.
support. Is there anything else that you would change about your current role?
There was one change I recently promoted because I was managing the team by myself, and I managed to promote 2 of my sales engineers to coordinators to help on this, right? So
Nice.
they're now reporting to me, and all these people that were reporting directly to me are reporting to them. So this is a huge change that I promoted. It was like a month ago, just before I went on vacation. So I did that and went on vacation like with my mind ease of worry, right? And this moving forward, I think it will be crucial because it will give me more room to work on real management thing on the holistic view of the team.
Right. 2 questions come to mind. One, did your management push back against promoting like team leads or coordinators within your team?
Not at all. They were very supportive.
Okay, and how did you choose who would become a coordinator?
It was very natural because those 2 guys were like, they were fit for the role.
Okay.
They were like already doing like interim coordination, right? They were already supporting me in a way.
All right, so they're already doing the job.
Yeah, basically. It was just like made official and like given more responsibilities, etc.
Yeah, it's funny that people want promotion before they actually start doing the job. And I always see promotion as, all right, you've been doing the job for a while. Now we're just giving you that title to make it official. So I like that. All right. You mentioned, so question number 3, you mentioned early on that you looked online and you found about the technical account management role, the technical pre-sales role. What resource would you recommend for people in your position that are either new to management or new to pre-sales, whichever one you want?
To learn more about this, you'd say?
Yeah, to learn more or figure out next steps. What book inspired you, I guess, or what resource inspired you?
I scavenged a lot, right? And I've talked to some people yourself. Your domain was like huge for like learning. I've talked with like Patrick Pisang, which is a great guy as well. He's a very, very nice thought leader. I had a few conversations with him, and I have been just digging through the internet. I mean, the internet is a great source, but I did find out that even though the internet's a huge source of knowledge, there's not that much information or dedicated domains for sales engineering, right?
Yeah.
Yours, I think, are the first one that you, when you type sales engineering, it's the first one that it pops. And it's a great domain, of course, full of content, but you don't see that much dedicated sales engineering domains out there.
That's why I started the podcast, because there wasn't anything out there and I wanted to learn. So yeah, Patrick Pisang, he's been on the podcast. His episode will be out a couple weeks before your episode. So
awesome.
All right. Last question of the not so fire round. is there a habit you're working on today to improve either in your personal life or your professional life?
I do have like, I was following, let's say a coach that, I mean, first of all, let's start saying that be careful with coaches out there, because sometimes you don't need to follow everything a coach says on the like literally, but you can always extract some good lessons from these people, right? And one thing that I've learned from this guy is like to break down everything that you need to have long-term goals and to break down your long-term goals. So this has helped me a lot. So if you think where I want to be in 5 years, oh, I want to be like a director of sales engineering. Okay, start breaking down that until you have a week worth of things to do, right? So what do I need to do this week to make sure I'm contributing to that goal 5 years ahead of me? So that's a philosophy that I have been applying with certain success, I would say.
Nice. So there's a couple of things. There's a book called Vivid Vision, which is all about building the vision for the future. It's more about 3 years out, not 5 years out. And there's a book and a website called The One Thing, which is all about breaking it down to the now. Like, what am I supposed to do now to hit my 5-year goal? So if you don't want to go for it with a coach, which I think coaches are important, I am biased, get those books and see if they help you. But yeah, awesome. All right, Andre Peixoto. Did I say it right?
Peixoto. Peixoto.
Sorry. I got
third time is the charm.
Peixoto. All right.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome. Andre, where can people reach out to connect with you or learn more about you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Andre Peixoto. That's basically it. Send me an invite. We can talk. We can connect. We can have a coffee chat. I'll be happy to talk with you. And if you like have any kind of business to discuss, we can extend that to whatever, a phone call, a meeting, or whatever.
Awesome. And if they're connected with you on LinkedIn, do you want them to leave a note or just send a connection without any note?
Whatever it pleases. I mean, if you want to send like an introduction, it's even better. If you just want to send a connect, you are shy at the day, you don't want to type, just send a connect and I'll happily accept that.
Well, if you're too shy to type a message, you might be too shy to connect to begin with. So that's
yeah.
All right, Andre, I appreciate your time and I hope to talk to you soon again.
Okay, Ramsey, thank you.
Thank you, Andre, for coming on. This has been an amazing call. I don't know why I just clapped right next to the mic, but I really enjoyed talking to Andre. I've talked to him several times. This wasn't the first time we meet, obviously. We've talked several times, and the way he's doing things is interesting. The thing I see about leaders is that they're always learning, and they can admit where they don't know something. So when he was not only moved from an implementation team into a C team, he became the manager of that team. He had a lot of figuring out to do. The fact that he went on a rampage and started reading everything, learning a lot, is just amazing. And hearing him talk about it, like a seasoned pro, just shows the amount of effort that he put into this to learn, to get better. And I love the fact that he came on and tried to share his information, actually succeeded in sharing his information with everybody, with all of you. So I'm happy that he was able to do it. So thank you, Andre, for doing that. And thank you guys for listening. I am curious to hear if you are in the same position. If you were in implementation and now you're a pre-sales engineer, what are the challenges you're facing? Or if you're part of a brand new SE team, what are the challenges you're facing? And let me know. I'm very curious to hear that. So I guess that's it for today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for being here. And with that, this is Ramsey signing off.